Welcome back, everybody. Here it is. Season 2 is kicking off today. Thanks for tuning in and joining me on another episode of Interventions and Detentions. I'm your host, Brad, and as I've stated, this year's going to look a little different. It's going to sound a little different, but I want to tell you why intervention and detention still matters and why we need you to keep tuning in. As you know, I had a co-host last year, Kylie. Kylie has taken a new position in a different corporation, and we wish her the best. We were hoping that we could continue doing the podcast together, and it's just really going to be difficult for her to commit to it. Like I said, it's not very close by where she's at. Timing is going to be hard, and she decided to say thank you, but no thank you, and I just can't let this go. So we're going to see how it works. I'm not used to being on the mic solo. It's definitely going to be different. This first episode will probably be a little clunky, and that's okay. As long as you guys can handle it, I can handle it. We're going to use this first episode just to kind of introduce the new season, what it's going to look like, how it's going to operate, and give you some foreshadowing to some upcoming episodes. We've already done that once. Obviously, we're going to keep rapid fire questions still around because that's probably my favorite part of the show. Love the rapid fire questions. So, we're going to still talk about school and the stories that we come across. We're going to bring in special guests, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Let's do a little review, though, from last season. We started about December, midwinter, kind of just dabbling in it. And if you go back and look at those first 2 or 3 episodes, very raw. Again, I'll use the word clunky. It was very clunky. Didn't feel real comfortable. There wasn't a lot of flow to it. But by about episode 4 and 5, we've finally kind of hit a groove. And it might take me 3 or 4 episodes to hit that groove here, being solo now and not having somebody to banter with and just ask questions back and forth with. It's just going to be me now until I have a guest on. And a lot of times our guests are going to be coming in off the phone, not live and in person. It'll be a little bit of both. But, as I reflect on season 1 and maybe think about a highlight or maybe my favorite guest or episode, we had so many episodes. I think we were up to like episode 20 or 21, something like that. And I cannot remember them without having them here in front of me, what the numbers were. But I think one of my favorite guests was our music and art teacher at the time, Matt Pooley, who has also since left us, but wants to come back as a returning guest, and I've already promised him a position. Matt's just got such an easy flow. He would be a great co-host, actually, and maybe I can get him to come aboard. Matt, he performs for one thing, so he's used to talking and being in front of an audience. His story was really kind of cool to listen to, how, he was a Central Noble kid. We're a Central Noble corporation, so he come back and worked for the corporation. His wife and kids actually attended different corporations. Now they're all together in a neighboring corporation, kids, mom and dad, all together, working together. But I guess my favorite part of Matt's guest spot last year was when he talked about how we interviewed him. He was actually driving on the road with his wife. He was in the passenger seat. Wife was driving, we were conducting this interview while he was driving. He actually put his wife on for a little bit on video. And that's the kind of guy Matt is. He just go with the flow. Whatever comes up, let's run with it. And he actually knocked that interview out of the park under the circumstances. So that was one of my favorite episodes. Cindy Schreiber talking about special education was another good episode because Cindy's so knowledgeable. She's my resource teacher here at Central Noble Primary. Lots of experience. She shared a lot of great information that I think was really probably helpful for parents if they tuned in. Trying to think what else. Obviously, just episodes toward the end where Kylie and I were really going off the cuff. We were not even scripting the last few episodes very much. We would kind of do some outlines, but I think the very last 2 episodes, we really didn't script anything. We just went into it cold and talked. And some of those kind of conversations are the most authentic and really fun to listen to. I'll probably kind of take that approach with new guests this year. Just to see where it goes. We'll have a topic, but I think as far as trying to script out things ahead of time, I'm not sure that I like that because it just doesn't flow as well sometimes. So we'll try to keep it as authentic and natural as we can. Going along the way. And those are some of the lessons that I've learned through this first season of podcasting and going into season 2, is just ways to keep the conversation engaging and flowing. Again, I've used that word flow a lot tonight. It probably will keep flowing as I talk about it. Honestly, I think getting questions ahead of time from our listeners and our audience of what you want to learn about, what you want to hear about. I'll try to put those guests out ahead of time, like, hey, next week we're going to be talking to Dave Nagel, who's going to talk about grading and reporting. What do you want to know from Dave? What questions do you have about that? I'll pick on my wife, Sherry, who always gets the shout out. So shout out to Sherry for joining us. She is going to be a guest this year and she's going to keep it real. What it's like to be married to a school administrator, even as a teacher, because we got married young. I should say I married her young. There's 5 years difference between Sherry and I. So she was actually still in college as I began my teaching career. But, she can talk all about what it was like being married to an educator, now an administrator. When I would go into my building on a Saturday morning to do grades and lesson planning, what kind of effect did that have on her and our relationship as an administrator, having 2 kids outside of our building and then in the same building that I was in. We had some hard times just trying to figure out, is Brad dad tonight or is he principal? And take off your principal hat for a little bit, Brad, because I need you to be dad and husband right now. We've worked through all those things very well together. Sherry and I have a great relationship, and I can't thank her enough for her support over the years, but it has not been easy for her either, and I know this. And I want her to share those things. Also going to bring both of our daughters on for an episode, like I said, because I think them explaining what it's been like to be the principal's kid, both in and out of the building, they're going to have some pretty interesting insight for listeners as well. So those kind of conversations are going to be fun, I think. And again, we'll talk more about some of the other guests that are going to join us in this first few episodes of the upcoming season. So I just want to think about, obviously I want to take it to the next level. And that's why I want to keep the show going. I think it's really important. I think we always talk about the why in education, like what's your why? I don't know that we really have one for the podcast. Maybe Kylie and I didn't intentionally have a why. I think the why to begin with was, let's do a podcast because it sounds like fun, and we really enjoyed it. And now I think it's more about, trying to make things relevant, trying to make conversations real, picking topics that we think people want to know about. And for me, I really want to kind of expand out from just education. I think we can take educational topics and make them relevant for our listeners and our audience. So again, that's where that feedback from you guys is going to be really helpful. Keep the comments and questions and feedback coming, because I want to tailor this to what you and your needs are, and just trying to make it fun in the process and enjoyable to listen to. We try to keep the episodes to 20 to 30 minutes. They're not real long. We want you to enjoy them. We want you to join us each week and have a good time. What else? Boy, let's talk about what you can expect in season 2 as we start. This is the first anchor episode, but it's more about where we've been and where we're going. We've got some really cool guests lined up. And I keep saying we because I'm used to being a we, so I need to start saying I. I've got some really good guests lined up for you guys. One of the first guests, and I don't know, these aren't going to be in any certain order, so Seth might not be the first guest, but I'm going to have a gentleman on named Seth Carter. He's an insurance agent. He's an entrepreneur. He's also a podcast host. He's a very big baseball fan. But he's one of my former teachers. I hired him on an emergency license when I was at Lakeland Middle School. He taught an entrepreneurship class. We needed a related arts special, and we pulled Seth in to teach business and entrepreneurship. And it was really cool for our middle school kids to have that experience. He was very raw, but he's going to come and talk to us about what that year, 1 year in the classroom, did for him, and not only reshaped his life, but his outlook on leadership. Seth has now, just this year, gone back into the classroom in Florida, so we'll kind of get a perspective of how that's going for him and where he's going in the next few months. It'll be a really good conversation, and Seth's such a great guy. I think you'll really enjoy listening to him and his story as we talk about 1 year in the classroom with Seth Carter. Another special guest that I have lined up is an educational coach. He's a keynote speaker and author, and his name is Dave Nagel. And Dave is going to talk about grading and visible grading. Dave and I go back to some training that I went through, probably 15 years ago or more. And it was all about data and using data to drive instruction and decisions and things like that. And I've kept in touch with Dave over the years, and Dave has just really taken off with his coaching gig and his PD and his work with John Hattie and visible learners, and now taking that into visible grading. So Dave is going to bring a lot of knowledge about how we think about grading and the philosophical components to grading. And there's so many philosophies when it comes to grading. Do you use Fs? Do you use the power of 0? Do you cut things off at 60%? Do you give letter grades? Do you give number grades in the primary grade levels? I'm anxious to pick Dave's brain on grading, because I have my own set of ideas and philosophies, obviously, as an educator. And I'm not saying they're right or wrong. They're just mine. But I'm anxious to hear his and the evidence and data that he puts behind it to back it. So looking forward to have Dave talk about grading and assessment and how we can do better with that in our world of education. This is an interesting one. So I had a principal from New Jersey reach out to me on social media on our podcast page asking if he could come on and talk about SEL for adults, social emotional learning for adults. And that person is Brian Kulak. Brian also has a podcast. I've been catching some of his episodes on Facebook. He's a passionate New Jersey principal. He's really big into culture, climate, and how adults can't forget to take care of themselves through social emotional needs. I'm anxious to talk to Brian. I have not had a conversation with him yet, other than through social media, but I want to get him on quickly and talk about how his year's going. And I always like to talk to other educators and especially administrators, because I feel like sometimes you got to reach out to people that are in your own wheelhouse and like, hey, how's it going? What did you do about this situation? And I think Brian will be really good to share some battle stories with, but also I'm anxious to hear what his insight is on the adult side of social emotional learning, because we talk a lot about that for kids in schools, but we don't always talk a lot about that as the adults and the educators. And that's really important. We got to keep that on our forefront as well. I was going somewhere else with that with Brian, but now I can't remember what it was. So, I was going to say we have a local, what I would call like a cohort of educators, principals that we meet with once a month. It's our District 3, Indiana District 3 area principals, and our elementary principals get together monthly to meet and collaborate. And we try to put an agenda together, but oftentimes it's just like sitting down and like, hey, this is going on right now. How would you guys handle this? I threw out an issue to them recently in an email about we just started using Chromebooks with just our first graders. Our kindergartners are using iPads. We're 1-to-1, and we have a system for putting apps on our iPads. But right now, it doesn't sound like we have one for the Chromebook, and that's just something we didn't think about. How do you do that? Can we put apps on Chromebooks? How do you do it? Things like that. And we share like what our class numbers look like from grade level to grade level every year. And are numbers increasing? Are they decreasing? Are you adding sections to accommodate that? Are you keeping number highs? Are you adding IAs to help support that? It is a really helpful thing to collaborate with your peers. And I probably ought to have an episode on just doing that, maybe. I think that would be probably interesting for people. We talked about Sherry joining us on the pod and my two daughters, Maddie and Meredith. I'm excited about that. You guys might think, I don't really care about your family and your wife, your kids, but I think their stories and perspective that they're going to bring about having a husband and a dad as a principal will be eye-opening, and maybe it'll only be eye-opening to me because I probably only know about this much, and I'm just holding up two fingers very close together, about the trials and tribulations they've gone through in those roles with me being an educator and principal. So I'm anxious to hear and learn from them what their journey has been like being married to and fathered by a principal and educator. One of my best friends from high school, Scott Helmkamp, who is the director at the LaPorte County YMCA here in Indiana, he wants to jump on. Again, he reached out to me, and I love it, and I want to have him on quickly because he is very passionate about leadership, and he's going to focus on how he's impacting tomorrow's leaders, the youth of tomorrow, through the YMCA and the opportunities that come there for kids. So very anxious to get Scott on. He's a strong leader himself. We go way back through high school, even way back to we shared a common babysitter when we didn't even really know each other, 4, 5, 6 years old. But Scott and I have spent a lot of time together over the years, sharing some battle stories about leadership and youth. And I'm excited to have Scott on to share his insight on what he's doing through the Y and his directorship to impact student leaders and grow student leaders for the future. It'll be a really, really good episode. One final guest that we have just added to the list is Justine Gonzalez. She is the host of Love, Learning, and You podcast. She's also founder and CEO at Educator Aid. And I know Justine. I met Justine when I was at Lakeland, and she was brought on to coach the administrators through a lot of different things. She's really big into culture and a cultural awareness, so I'm excited to talk about that. I'm also going to be on her podcast. We're kind of trading off on each other. I don't really know where it's going to go with Justine because she's going to make us think, and she's going to make me think, and she's going to push me through the podcast. I know this already, Justine, because I know you very well. But I'm excited about that. It's been a while since I've had a chance to work with Justine, but I do follow her on her social media, and I've loved where she's gone with things, and now I'm excited to bring her on my podcast, but also to be a part of hers as well. And I know you're going to see two entirely different episodes when that happens, hers versus mine. You'll just have to sit back and see it. So I invite you to catch both of those when they come out, and we'll keep you posted on that. So as you can see, I have a lot of cool things planned for this season too. It's going to look and sound different, like I said, and that's okay. I just need you to stick around. I need you to share it. I want to build the momentum. If you join us on social media, reach out with a question, you might just get sent a Interventions and Detentions podcast t-shirt. We still have some swag left. Going to be bringing on some new swag this year, some new designs, hopefully. So I'm excited about that as well. We just want to keep it real, but we want to keep it going. And the only way we can do that is through you, my listeners, and your feedback as well. It's going to be super, super important. Let's jump into some rapid fire questions. Now, you're probably thinking, Brad, you probably know what these are already because you produced them yourself. Well, sort of. I mean, I won't say that I didn't glance at them ahead of time, but I will say that I didn't spend a lot of time preparing for them. So these are just some random ones today about education. And I thought with the startup of the school year, like we're on day number 4 today as I record this, we're early into it. We're still learning. So let's learn about me through some rapid fire questions about school. What's one school supply that you couldn't live without? Boy, I would say for me, glue. Would that be one? Because I loved playing with glue, but I was not the kid that put it in their hands and dried it all up and then ate the glue. I also liked the rubber erasers, that not the pink ones, but the brown ones that had a funky smell to them. They were like a special eraser. I don't know. The pink ones always seem to just smear your pencil, I thought. I don't know. But the beige ones were a little bit different. They had a different texture. They were a little harder. They didn't break apart as easy, but they had a real funky smell. And I kind of liked that smell for some reason. Also love the smell of Play-Doh. Don't know where that comes from. Not really a school supply, but love the smell of Play-Doh. Just throw that out there. Obviously, I couldn't go without having pencils. I mean, that's a necessary school supply, but you got to have the basics, right, to get through your day as an elementary student. If I could redesign one part of school, what would it be? This is something that I actually have thrown out to our superintendent here recently. I love the concept of a 4-day school week, especially with Central Noble right now. We're going through some changes this year and some cutbacks due to the losing of a referendum vote in our county and our school district. We were, going for a referendum. It did not pass, so now we've got to make some adjustments to be financially sound. But in that process, I've kind of thought about the idea of a 4-day work week and just going through school on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, having one day off a week where we don't have school, where we shut buildings down. We don't have transportation. We don't have to worry about food service. I feel like we could save a lot of money doing that way. We would have to add a little bit of time onto each day that we're here, those 4 days, but I think our kids, especially our older kids, might function a little bit better having a 4-day work week. I think the adults would do better functioning with a 4-day work week. I think it allows that extra day to use as a makeup day. If we have snow days in there, we could always go that extra day. I feel like it gives a lot of flexibility and I don't know. I think it livens things up a little bit. I feel like I'd be excited about a 4-day work week where I don't have to worry about doing anything on that 5th day. I know it does create some problems like childcare for our community. I think we could work through that and maybe even offer some ideas to help our parents and families through that. I really like that. And that's, if I could redesign one part, I'd do a 4-day week. What's harder to handle, indoor recess or cafeteria duty? Indoor recess all day long, because cafeteria duty is pretty much the same every day. But you get a rainy day after 2 months of outdoor recess and now you got to be indoors. Oh boy. With kindergarten, first grade, and when we had second grade, that's a tough gig. It's tough at the elementary level as well. Indoor recess is kind of like confined chaos. You put 80 kids in the gym and 3 adults, and it gets like a popcorn pressure cooker. You can just feel it as it starts to build, and our kids you cannot help but get hurt in the gym because you're going to run around, I'm going to catch this ball, and boom, you run into somebody, and you can tell them, don't run, be careful, watch what you're doing. It doesn't matter. They're kids. They're going to just go crazy, which we want them to do at recess time. But oh my gosh, indoor recess, hardest to handle all day long. Let's see. If I had a superpower, what would it be? And this is cool because I just read a book to all of our students last week as I went around and introduced myself. And it's, my principal is a superhero. And in the book, it talks about Mr. Clarkson having superpowers and things like that. And it shows him with a cape. And I think mine would have to be invisibility. Like, I think it'd be so cool if I could be invisible and walk around the building and walk into classrooms and watch the teaching and the learning that's going on without me being seen. Because, you know, when the principal walks into a room, you know it and you feel it. And I'm not saying my teachers put on a dog and pony show, because they're really good about just going with the flow. And, you know, they know that I like to come in and out of the classroom. So it's not about that. I just think it would be so fun for them not to know that I'm there and me to see those real lessons and conversations, and even between the student to student, just to hear those kind of things happening would be so much fun. And also just to mess with them, like to go up and tap on their shoulder and not be able to see me. I think that'd be fun. Or like take their pencil and move it somewhere. So I would want to be super invisible if I could have a super power. Whew! I've talked a lot, and I did it solo, and I'm approaching 23 minutes. So that's not too bad. I'll go with that. For not even having a guest on, I'll go with that. So listeners, please, thank you for sticking around. I hope you continue to stick around, even with it's me solo. You know, and I'll give Kylie a shout out one more time. I appreciate all that she did in my building for the last 2 years, and her being a part of this podcast. And who knows, maybe we can get Kylie back on for an episode as a special guest and see how her year is going as an EL coordinator at a neighboring district. We wish her the best. We wish her the best luck. We wish her the best year. And thank you for being a big part of what Interventions and Detentions was and is as we move forward. But again, thank you, listeners, for sticking around for Season 2. I'm excited about it. I hope you are too. And again, if you have ideas, thoughts on episodes or guests or things like that, you want to be a guest, reach out to me. I'm open to anything. One guest that we haven't had on is a parent. That would be fun, I think, a parent of a school child, and talk about all the things parenting when it comes to raising children and students. I think we could do lots of cool things, so just hit me up. Let's go. Keep checking us out. I push things out on TikTok, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Insta. I don't do Snap. Sorry, I'm not a Snapchat person, but check out all those avenues. You can find the podcast on basically any platform. We're on Apple Pod, iHeart, I think Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Podbean, which is the platform that we use to record on. If you search Interventions and Detentions podcast on Google, you're going to find us. So check us out, listen to us, join us. It's going to be an exciting year. I'm super excited. Getting back in here in the studio today has been fun and kind of rejuvenized me to get ready for season 2. Let's go, people. I'm ready. Are you ready? I'm ready for season 2. Let's pump up that music as we get ready to get out of here today. Join us, as always, every week for another episode of Interventions and Detentions. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. This is season 2 coming at you of Interventions and Detentions, where the real learning begins. See you next week.